So imagine that you help create a thriving team. I mean, it has like undeniable trust. It has clear communication. It has this culture that we all just want to be a part of. And you're building leadership habits all along the way. I mean, we're talking about like this utopia, right? You know, everybody wants this perfect place. A little bit of a spoiler alert. I've talked to some pretty large companies like Spotify, like the John Maxwell team. These organizations have leadership problems. They have leadership challenges. They have challenges with trust and communication, and the culture doesn't always, sometimes it just stinks. So Google, you know, all these big organizations that we look up to, they're in the same boat we are. So what do we do with that, right? How do we just continue to strive to have the results that we need as an organization? Um, Today's leaders, just bottom line, are extremely overwhelmed, overworked, overloaded, constant demands. There's these constant distractions, and software is constantly being developed that is just more of a distraction. The vibrations and the dings and the buzzes, and then people can walk in your office or they can call you five different ways. I mean, none of it's helping. None of it's helping. So with that, there's this lack of leadership support, and this is the challenge. This is the problem. I've talked to leaders so often in my years as a consultant. It's the same story. I did my job really well. I got promoted. But it kind of goes on to say, I did my job really well. I got promoted and I don't have a clue what to do next. You know, so with that idea, they don't want to admit that to the boss because the boss might take them out of the promotion. They don't want to admit it to anybody, but in all reality, they're spiraling and they're frustrated and they're scared. And what do I do? Where do I go? How do I lead people and now do the work? Is that really my job? That's where the support is needed, and that's where this connection comes into play.
We are, as leaders, in the people business. That's the difference between managers and leaders. Leaders lead people, managers manage processes. And Kathy, what you're talking about is, excuse me, I did my job really good. I was a great doer, and I was promoted into this position where what got me promoted is no longer necessarily my job. A lot of leaders are still in positions, right? But they're sometimes inefficient because now I'm supposed to lead this team, but I'm also supposed to produce these numbers or whatever it may be. And it does get challenging. I was promoted and now I have to learn how to do something entirely different that did not get me this promotion. And I think about going from doer to leader. That was
Mm-hmm.
our very first lesson in the Midwest Leadership Academy, something we're going to be talking about today on the transactional level. And this is all makes sense in a little bit. And I don't want to get way ahead of myself, but that was the birthing of what we want to share today is what resources do we have? We find ourselves in this position. I'm used to achieving at this level, at a very exceptional level. And now all of a sudden, what do I do? Where do I go? Where are my resources? Now you got them, if you didn't already.
I was a high achiever. I was one of those that got promoted. I was one of those that was super excited until I wasn't. I took up running years ago because I needed to give my brain a break. I needed to wear out my brain. I mean, years ago, I created the boundary of my work email is going off of my phone because I can't take it at night. I don't need this at night. All of this buildup, this overload, oh, I feel it. And I remember trying to find my own fix by reading the right book or going to a conference. Leadership is not an event, it's a habit and a mindset. And that's really what we want to share with you here today is a little glimpse into, you know, what does this mean, a habit and a mindset, and how does this kind of play into the daily process of a leader, the daily consistency, the community that we build. How is this transforming the way that we're going to lead? So, with all of this, this is exactly why we built the Midwest Leadership Academy and we created the focus driven leadership model. All right, so within this model, this is, I mean, leaders don't They don't fail because of lack of effort. They fail because of lack of focus. And that's why this is the title of the model. Okay. The focus driven leadership model really teaches leaders how to like cut out all that noise, get all the distractions, kind of pushed away, looking for that clarity, focusing on what truly matters most. As a leader, you still need results and you need to influence people. So how do we make this all happen, all the balls in the air at the same time, do what really matters most, and lead our teams to the success that we're looking for? When leaders focus better, their teams focus better. Focus is really what drives results, and it increases or multiplies your influence. So, John, I'm going to pass the microphone over to you because I know you love to go deep on this one.
So what you see in front of you is 20 years of experience that Kathy and I have had, citing multiple resources, whether they're magazines, Inc. magazine, Forbes, uh, the Harvard Business Journal, a number of, if you saw our bookshelves, a number of leadership uh, resources there as far as books. We did all kinds of research on this and we came up with this model because one of the things that we've learned since we started this journey is that leadership is influence. And the quote says, nothing more or nothing less. If you don't influence a group or a person or whatever, you're not really leading. It's that whole thing of if no one's following you, then you're only out for a walk. So what could we create to not only, and as you see the arrow on the right side, increasing your influence, but also increasing the results, because isn't that the world we live in today? We still have to increase results. We live in a world that we have to produce. Now, the unique thing about this ladder is one's not better than the other. I bet if I could hear your internal talk, some of you are like, oh, I'm on this rung. That's not the highest rung up on the ladder. We take all of those with us every day. Now, obviously, we want to strive for the top of the ladder, transcendence. That's where, if you think about transcendence, you're not just changing cultures, you're changing industries, right? Because, and we have those little words on both sides. On the influence side, we have I words. On the results side, we have the D words. And each one requires a different perspective. They're all great. I always like to say, we want to climb the ladder, but unfortunately, here's where the problem exists, is sometimes we stop climbing and we start camping, meaning we take our foot off the throttle of learning and growing and trying to generate better and more leadership. There are times in transactional where we have to go back to getting results. We have to uh, we have to impose what the rules are because maybe there's a new initiative. Maybe there's something where we have to achieve a certain thing in our company. Transactional is where you want to be. We have to strip out all the, like Kathy said, the noise, and we have to decide what is the best path forward. Once we're able to do that, then we can go to the next one to generate, and in this case, maybe trust. And that's where we're going to live a lot today, is we're going to talk about the second rung of the ladder. And I know it's not the first one, and you guys are probably thinking, well, aren't we supposed to start number one? No, I want to start with the second ladder in trust. And trust is when you're creating this relationship with your team. The word invited means you have generated some type of rapport with your team and they have invited you into your life. Your team is no longer following you because it was imposed. This is the rules. You got to do it. Now I'm inviting you because I trust you. I ask you to lead me. I'm going to follow you. And this is where we have to be able to discern our team, discern what is the best route. And kind of like behind the curtain type of thing is in doing this ladder or this rung of the ladder, I found something that I wasn't prepared for finding. And I get to share that with you here in a little bit. Um, it was mind blowing and just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And then so on with traction. Now we're starting to hit synergy. Traction is impactful, and we've designed a path that works. It's about achieving results. It's we're we all know our role and we're working really hard and it just seems like here we go. Transfer is where we stop
Hey, John,
worrying about what's that?
let me pause you for a quick minute because traction is the most popular result in the assessment. It's the most popular result in all of the data that we've been capturing, but it's also, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, isn't it also where we sit the most throughout our day is really on the traction rung?
So that's thank you for saying that. It's we actually spend probably more time on transaction. And as you go up on that ladder, while we still can go up on that ladder, it gets kind of rarefied air. Not everyone makes it to transfer or transcendence. But yeah, we go back and forth. If we want to be relational and it's time to to get rid of the distractions and now it's got to be here. You ever have a leader? Let me give you an example. You ever have a leader that when you talk to them, you felt like you were being heard?
Mhm.
Have you ever been in that room, even like in a network, when you talk to someone and they made you feel as though you were the only one in the room? Or you had that conversation where it was all about you. Tell me more about that. Explain to me what you did then. And they were locked.
So,
That's
John,
trust.
I have, but when I look at the quantity of people and leaders that I've worked with, the quantity that have listened to me is not very high.
Yeah,
So maybe like 1 out of 100. Is that normal?
it is. And we talk about the value of leaders, whether whatever rung you want to get on, transcendence, transfer, traction, trust, even transactional. The value of a leader exists on getting out of the people pile. Everyone operates in a pattern. The more I study this, the more I can see patterns that develop. When we can separate ourselves from other leaders, and the number one thing that we teach all the time and it is the ability to truly be present and listen to your team. When you have that, now you've separated yourself from the masses. Trust comes. And once you get trust, then I don't have to worry about all this other white noise. Now we're going to just knock our jobs out of the ballpark. Then we experience traction. And once your team's full of traction, it's no longer about the results. It's about me empowering you and pouring my knowledge into you. I'm investing everything I have into you so that now we don't necessarily replicate us. We begin to multiply the culture and we spend more time developing our team. So that's where the transfer rung is. And I talked a little bit about transcendence. So, um, it's a very dynamic illustration, and there's so many different levels this is why we can market that this really works for emerging leaders who are just starting off, evolving leaders who are kind of more middle management, and even executive leaders. Where I get this all the time. I've been doing this for 25 years, and that arms usually gets crossed when you hear about 25 years. There's not much more you can teach me. Well, the only thing that I received from that 25 years is that you might have been doing it wrong for 25 years. Or, what haven't you thought about in those 25 years? And so this is that holistic perspective of not just the Midwest Leadership Academy, but Kath, I thought about this today on, going back to the superpowers, another thing that you're going to be talking about later is going back to our habits, the brain science. And yes, while this may be a habit of mine, 25 years of doing it a particular way, we teach you how to rewrite the habits after we've been able to share knowledge.
So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into trust. And John, you kind of mentioned that while you've been, studying and researching and all this stuff, you stumbled across something. Every one of these rungs of the ladder has a trap to it. And so go back to your result from the assessment that you took. There's a trap. There's a trap within that we're blindsided by. We don't necessarily see it coming. And that's why John was a little shocked when he started looking into this and defining it a little better. So John, let's share the trap of the trust
Yeah.
run.
Yes, absolutely. So to what Kathy said, when we go through this ladder, it's usually we spend a couple months on a particular rung of the ladder. The first one will always involve movement, like what do we do, or some of the characteristics of the rung. And then the second month on that rung, we talk about a trap. We are always taught that you can't be aware of something until you're first made aware of something. And the awareness came when, as I started learning more about trust and kind of just really kind of diving into this. Don't you think of trust as a finish line that you cross? Like you strive, you want to achieve trust. This is the true north. This is the bullseye that we're aiming at. When we get trust, we got everything. But I stumbled across a trap, and it's called the comfort trap. We get comfortable in trust, and that's where I want to spend a little bit of time talking. So this is how I started down the comfort trap. I have a client who was exceptional, is exceptional at what they do. And everything they touch, they almost had like the Midas touch. If you've ever heard of the Midas touch, right? Everything they touch turns to gold. They were able to crush it. They achieved their numbers, the production went up. They know the manager of this person, they would meet every other week just as a touch base to make sure that we're on point, to make sure that we're in alignment with what the organization wants us to do. And because of that, they took the baton and they ran with it. They did incredible. The problem is that once that comfort trap came in, things started to change because the leader trusted that person. We don't have to meet every other week. Let's move that back to once a month. You're doing great. You're doing fine. And I'm not going to have to babysit you or keep my finger on your pulse. You're all right. You got it. You're my girl. You're my guy. And what happened was that month then turned into quarterly meetings. And once trust was built, that's not the end game. All of a sudden, we stopped doing what we did to achieve what it was we achieved. We stopped with that standard of excellence that we started off with in the name of autonomy. And we think trust leads to autonomy and autonomy leads to production. But really, what it does is that autonomy that I extend to you begins to sacrifice my production. And this particular leader took their foot off the throttle because of the lack of accountability that they had. So they still did great, but the work amount, all of a sudden, instead of 8 hours of work, as long as when the lights are on, when the microphone's hot, when I have to perform, I perform, I'm doing okay. And the work got 6 hours a week, or I'm sorry, 6 hours a day. Then about 4 hours a day. And then the internal dialogue says, I'm still achieving well, I'm still doing good, but now I'm only working when I have to work. Because in this world of virtual working or offsite or being able to be in a hybrid or remote, I no longer have that accountability. And the problem happened was as we let our standards go down, so did our trust. So did our trust. You see, the trap happens after trust is built. And in my mind, it was a tough paradigm to accept because I thought trust was what we wanted, but it wasn't. Once the leader felt safety in our relationship, we unconsciously create what I call the drift model. Kathy, can you pull up the drift model? I have an illustration for you to reinforce what the drift model is. So this is what it looks like. And maybe as I tell that story and I start talking into this, you can relate somewhere down the road with another person because we know it's never happened for you guys. But the very first part is the contribution. We elevate, we separate ourselves from everyone else because we're not just the all-star, we're the superstar. So my contribution begins to separate from the masses. Now the credibility comes in because now it's sustainable. I've done it consistently over a period of time, thus increasing me even more. My status, maybe my relationship with my boss or whoever else. And the boss is thinking, I don't have to babysit this person. I can put my focus, I can put my time and effort into other areas. Maybe it's someone who's not performing so well. They've got credibility, and therefore it goes into relational trust. And that's where you see the exclamation point, because this is where the drift happens. We get comfortable. Unfortunately, we get comfortable, and it happens after the trust was built. And when we get comfortable, performance begins to drift to what it was that took us to an exceptional level. And on top of everything else, the culture begins to change because everyone sees, the teammates begin to see that that one person is being treated just a bit different. And we say this all the time, but really what we allow continues. What we allow continues. And it sounds a lot like this. Here's some things for you to think about. Comfort leadership sounds a lot like, I don't want to push them too hard. We're getting the numbers. I don't want to upset the team. I don't want to rock the boat. It's all good here. But trust becomes comfort instead of another C word, courage, which is what we always have to lead with, is courage. Courage to have the hard conversations instead of the comfort to avoid it. Courage to elevate the standards that says this is good, but let's get it. We can get more, and stretch and challenge our team versus lowering them down just to make sure we're all cool. How do you offer autonomy and not drop in accountability? So I've spent the last 10 years in finance. And so that's kind of where my mind, call it the recency effect, but I always think about this, is that when we have trust, it increases relational capital. The question is what do we do with it? If we become a comfort leader, it sounds like I want to maintain the peace. I want to avoid some tension or possible tension. I want to keep everyone happy. Versus that relational capital, if I want to spend or invest it back into my team with that capital, I want to continue to challenge my team and elevate the standards and to push growth. And here's why I say that. One of the very first lessons I've ever learned, I should say that I'm learning, I can't say that I've learned it, but I'm learning, is that a key element of leadership is always start with the reins tight and loosen them if applicable or as necessary. It means we're going to continuously communicate, and that is, I think, the golden nugget there is to continue to communicate. And yeah, while it's that fine line between micromanaging and still being that person, it's about communication that I'm going to hold these standards accountable. I'm not only going to do that, but I need to communicate the value of why these standards are high. I believe in you, and I need to do my due diligence by stretching you and challenging you, and not to just get comfortable or complacent. I would be doing myself an injustice and you as an employee or as my team an injustice. So I'm going to start tight, man. I'm going to hold the standards high, and I'm going to keep challenging you. I'm going to recognize you. I'm going to do all those things that we know is right. I'm going to keep engaging with you. You're going to keep having a voice. You may not get your way, but you're going to be heard. You're going to be seen. These are things that we all know in leadership is very important, that we don't want to fall by the wayside, but that is a way. I'm not smart enough. Hey, caveat here, I'm not smart enough to create the way of doing this. So this is a way of making sure that we don't drift because of this comfort trap. It's that communication, it's that expectation. Because here's the thing, I want that teammate who is not, again, an all-star, but a superstar. I want them to take what my expectations of them are and have it as the floor. I want the ceiling is to be exceeding expectations, because that's what I have for you.
Okay,
But
so hold on.
yeah,
I learn best with stories and examples. And
mm,
I prepared this presentation. I even got a picture ready.
And I don't think there's a story as powerful as the Brady-Belichick era that was in football. You think about this. Just give you a little bit of it for those who don't know. Tom Brady is referred to as the GOAT, right? The greatest of all time as far as quarterbacks. Now, whether or not you like the New England Patriots or even Tom Brady, it's irrelevant here. Just capture the spirit of what we're saying. Brady was drafted 199th in the draft, in the
How
sixth
many are
round. They
there in a
thought,
draft?
huh?
How many are there in a draft?
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot. There's like I think 10 rounds and whatever. But he thought maybe he would go mid second, third at the latest round. He went the sixth round. In fact, the story tells that he actually left his family when he found out he wasn't drafted to the sixth round and lost it. He went and broke down and cried because he was so disappointed in himself. He met the owner, how Kraft, coming down a hallway. He had a pizza box in his hand. And he said, Mr. Kraft, and he's like, I know who you are. You're Tom Brady. He's like, yeah, I'm Tom Brady. And I just want to let you know, I am the best decision your organization has ever made. They went to 9 Super Bowls together. They won 6 Super Bowls. Brady and Belichick are still the standard of excellence when it comes to not just football, but sports. So I did a lot of studying on this. The standard of winning, let's look at it from just two perspectives here. First, the leader, and that was Bill Belichick, who was the coach. Let's look at his perspective. The first one was no one is above the standards because the standard is what makes us great. Relationships are great, relationships are cool, they're needed, but it's the standard that makes us great. His job was never to make his stud quarterback, who, by the way, after his first year was fourth string. The next year he was second string and got his starting position because the starting quarterback got hurt. Otherwise, we may have never heard of who Brady was. But Belichick had laser focus. Kathy, that's how you started this, is getting rid of the noise and having focus. He knew what the standard would be. His job was to make the culture sustainable, not to stroke his star athlete. If your best player, here's the something to be aware of, and I kind of wrote this particular quote down. If your best player gets special treatment, the culture you're in belongs to the person, not the team, and definitely not you as a leader. Brady's perspective, from the performer or the teammate's perspective, he didn't resist it. He embraced it. This is what made them so good. Is he understood that coaching meant that they had a belief in him. Because remember, 199th overall, there wasn't a lot of, the bar wasn't set really high for him. Accountability meant respect. I'm going to get stretched. They believe in my potential. And the unique thing about potential is, number one, it's one of the most unlimited resources we can have in leadership is potential. Yet the challenge is it's one of the hardest to measure. Brady saw this. And
Okay, so
then,
let me pause you a little bit because I'm a football follower, but not as much like you. So let me rephrase some things here just to make sure I'm understanding it. I mean, Bill Belichick, great coach. Tom Brady, great quarterback. Put them together and they made an amazing team that won Super Bowls. And that really is the objective of a football team, right? To win Super Bowls. But what kept them so amazing is the fact that Bill kept Tom at the same level as every other player. But on the flip side of it, Tom kept himself at the same level or above. So it kind of goes hand in hand, right? It was a high level coach, but also a high level player that brought the success. Am I saying that right?
yes, yes. And it was Belichick who also challenged, even though Brady was kind of in alignment with that. I remember a quote from Babe Ruth, and he said, yesterday's home run will never win today's game. That they had to continuously redefine who they were. what they wanted to achieve. They didn't rest on the fact that just they just came off a championship season. This is why it's so hard in professional sports for people to repeat. It's because we get comfortable.
So
Comfort,
let's go back to that client story you were telling in the beginning. The client who started kind of backing off. He was still performing, he was still high level, but didn't have to put as much work into it. But also the boss who started backing off and not meeting as regularly. So what got them the wins in the beginning wasn't kept for on either
correct.
side, the player or the boss, right? That was where the comfort trap was setting in on both angles. So it's not just the player
Mm-mm.
that can fall into the comfort trap. The boss or the coach can go there as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what do you
And
what
so,
do you what do you do? What do you do with this when you might realize, oh, wait a minute, we're comfortable. What do you do with it?
well, that's the crossroads. And so let's talk about behaviors. Okay. When you get to a crossroads, you can either address it or you can ignore it. And I don't mean to be gender specific, but guys are really good at trying to ignore a situation. We'll brush it under the rug or whatever. Okay. But that's not necessarily a leader here or there. But to stay with the football analogy, I call it well, it's called the three R's, but what I focused as and what I see is protecting the edge. I want to protect the edge. The second most important player on a football, whether you guys know this or not, is actually the blindside tackle. Offensive linemen that protect when the quarterback goes out for a pass, he's got the backside of that quarterback because that's where they get injured. And your star quarterback, you don't ever want to get injured. So it's what I call protecting the edge. And you do that by what I call the three R's. The first one is that we want to revisit what did we do to achieve that success? What was it that originally was our bullseye that we aimed at? What were we doing that created mutual credibility with each other? We got to revisit. If we can't see it, we will never be able to articulate it. So sometimes we got to take a step back. Are we still performing where we were? So the first one is revisit. The second one is we want to reinstate it. What discipline, what habit, and what standard did I relax on? And this is the tough part because no one wants to admit that they did it wrong, or maybe they should have done it better, or we need to improve. There's ego, especially with the all-star, the superstar, and the coach. But we need to reinstate this. And it's done through mutual communication. If those reins are always tight, we're always having that communication. You know what? I know I appreciate your effort, but I feel like we kind of slipped a little bit. And the leaders always taking the onus first, right? Is there anything that I've done or what can I do to help us get back there? I know that I don't do the end of line production, but I'm going to take some ownership of that. And then the last one is raise. Where do I need to elevate my expectation and not maintain it? Our brains are homeostasis. We resist change. We like the norm. As long as our predictive machines are correct, we're cool. But now we're challenging that. What do I need to do to elevate, to raise it, and not just maintain it and stay comfortable? Hence the comfort trap and the drift model. So where am I in the drift model right now? You see all of that. Uh, Control, credibility, whatever it is. Where am I at right now in the drift model? The second one is where has comfort shown up in a very subtle way? It's not noisy. Comfort doesn't show up noisy and announce, I'm here. We're all comfortable. It's very subtle. So where has it shown up if you find yourself on the drift model? And the third one is this. What have I stopped doing that used to make me effective? These are three questions we could ask that superstar and answer it ourselves quite candidly. Do you ever, as I told the story, and does it sound familiar to you? So then the last question I would ask, and really this is a call to arms, this is an action item. Here's the commitment. This week, this quarter, this year, whatever it may be, I will reintroduce blank into my standard. This week, I will reintroduce blank into my standard. Here's the barometer that I strive for. I don't always achieve it, but I strive for it. Your expectation of what this is, I want it to be the floor. I want to exceed expectations. I appreciate excellence. I kind of demand excellence. And I'm a hypocrite if I strive to offer anything less than excellence. I don't always do it, but I try. Do you?
So, John, when you talk about standard, and you mentioned it with Bill Belichick and the standards, a standard is kind of like a rule that you follow as a leader. For example, we are going to meet every single Friday at 9 o'clock. Boom, there's a standard. Or we're going to follow these metrics or this dashboard to make sure we meet the goal. And there's my standard. Am I right here in how I'm kind of putting some concrete examples to the word standard?
Yeah, it's a bit, if we're being honest, an ambiguous word because I think if we all ask to define what a standard means, we're going to come up with different definitions. While we may not be able to define what that standard looks like, we all know what it is.
So kind of like that client you were talking about who gave a good 8 hours every day and then suddenly was given a good 6 hours and a good 4 hours. His standard should be a good 8 hours every day. That's where he started to drift as the employee in his work.
If we were sticking with the Brady-Belichick example, the 8 hours that's expected of me, again, is the floor. I played sports my whole life, and the coach one time told me, he's like, if all you do is try to get better at practice, then you're no different than anyone else. It's what you do when you're not having practice. That's the floor. The standard from our model and from what we talked about with Brady is okay, that's the minimum is the 8 hours. What more can I do? What else? What am I not thinking of? How else can I look at this? What more can I provide for this? And it's just another little golden nugget that again I through research I implemented into this lead focus driven leadership model. Abraham Lincoln said, if I had an hour to chop a tree down, I'd spend the first 55 minutes sharpening my axe because he knew that his tool would generate what success looked like. As leaders, we can't let our foot off the throttle. I've seen this before. Leaders have gone through programs. This is one thing that the Midwest Leadership Academy will never do. This program that the leader went through, I'm like, congratulations, man. You got a nice certification on the wall. You got some extra books. Now, what are you going to do with all of this knowledge that you got? And their response was this: I'm going to take a break. You missed it. You missed it. You missed the point.
Take a break
I'm
from
going to,
learning.
I'm going to take a
Take a break
break.
from
I'm
leading.
kind of tired. I'm exhausted. I'm going to take a little hiatus or a vacation. Being a high level leader is like going to the gym. And once you get into shape, I'm going to take a break. The problem with
I'm going
getting
to
into
leave the
shape is you
muscle.
got to go to the gym every day for the rest of your life. That's where the exceptional leaders understand you don't get a break. Now I need to go to here or I need to do that. And when you can create a program, and okay, that's great, John. I understand that. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I'll buy that. I'm buying the Kool-Aid to drink, but where's the resource? Continuously keeping things in front of us. What we focus on gets accomplished, not keeping our foot off the throttle or getting comfortable or, you know what? Nice job. I deserve a break. No, you don't. Let's go. Let's go. There's more there. Leaders see more and before others. This is why leadership, you can't live your life with your head down in a position. Your head has to be up. Let's stick with the analogy of football. When a quarterback goes to the line of scrimmage, is their head down looking at the center's butt? No, it's up reading the defense. Why? In case we got an audible, in case there's a problem, there's an obstacle in our way from us being trying to achieve a certain thing. We have to be able to view things, and we got to see them before others. And in order to do that, I got to be able to have a relationship, trust with my team, but not become complacent with that trust, knowing how far I can push you. I go back to that other movie, Miracle, right? Miracle on Ice. Herb Brooks had them all take the psychology test. So he knew how far to push them. Now, that's not reality today. We can't let everyone take it, but we also need to know, okay, how far can I push this person? And the way we do that, just a sidebar, here's the thing that a lot of leaders do, and it's meant for good, but I don't like it because it's passive, is that leaders have an open door policy. Because if you ever have a problem, my door's always open to you. You can come talk to me about anything. The challenge is it puts the onus on the performer, not on me. And will justify a lot of reasons why I don't want to go to that office. It's a dumb question, or he's busy, or I don't want to bother him, or blah, blah, blah. And they never come in versus walking slowly through the crowd. You need to get your butt out of your office and walk slowly through the crowd. Observe. When you become a master observer, the world is your teacher. And it just takes two things, intentionality and awareness. And now you're starting to see like all these little pieces of the puzzle that we cover in this academy that teaches us how to think differently and not just, hey, you get you get me. I am who I am. Oh, there's so much more to us. We just got to be open to it.
I'm going to jump back here to the actual focus-driven leadership model that we were sharing earlier. Have you ever thought about trust like this before? Have you ever even defined something like a comfort trap, even realized that it's a thing? There's examples of really good people who have not been in the comfort trap, and there's examples when people have been in the comfort trap. This all aligns to leadership. It all aligns to your leadership.
Thanks,
Make
everyone.
it a great day, great weekend. We'll see you guys soon.
I hope this topic has challenged you to think differently as you strive to grow from success to world class. Please follow this podcast, share it with your friends, and follow me and Unity Consulting on all social platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and our website, unityconsultingllc.com. I look forward to connecting with you next time to challenge your habits so that you are more efficient and fully empowered.